All right, all right. Happy Friday night, everybody. We're back to the Friday night live stream. Radio Baloney, Friday night live stream. I see we've already got Hot Retarded Chicks in the chat. Best name ever. I've never seen a better name than that. It's perfect. I love it. And I hope that he never goes away. If it's a he, I don't know. It could be Hillary Rodham Clinton because HRC, right? Anyway, I do not have any information that will lead to the arrest of Hot Retarded Chicks. So let's get started, people. What are we talking about? So tonight, well, we're going to do the thing we usually do, which is go over a bunch of stories, some of which I've touched on in the week, some of I haven't. The ones I've already touched on, those are ones that need a second look. But we start out with some kind of major stories, then we go to Twitter. But anyway, let's get to that. I'm going to walk you through this. All right, first we're talking about CBS News seizes Hunter Biden laptop research from fired reporter Catherine Herridge. And has anybody mentioned it's an election year? So next we've got Canadian professor that has delivered a damning report on DEI training, telling us what we really already knew, that it's divisive, counterproductive, and unnecessary. We're going to talk, well, we have to talk, and I did make a couple of videos about this during the week, but we have to talk about this insanely woke Google AI, Gemini AI. Anybody, let me know how the audio is, by the way. Somebody can give me a thumbs up or something, just so I know, because I never know. I've got no idea. But yeah, we have to talk about this insanely woke Gemini AI, Google's AI, which is really exactly what Google wanted it to be, regardless of what they're saying. All right, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about MSNBC guest says Christian nationalists believe rights come from God, not government, and that this is different than what Christians believe. First off, before we're going to get into that obviously later, but just as an intro, Christian nationalist is just whatever fits for their purposes at any given time, right? Same thing with like racist. It's just whatever works. Whatever they need that word to mean at any given time, that's what it means. And then we are going to go through a whole bunch of Twitter stuff. And this is usually the longest part of the show. Sometimes goes like 3 hours or longer. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I have curated over the week, and we're going to go through all of it. Maureen O'Gorman, thumbs up. Thank you very much for letting me know. Appreciate it. All right. All right. Let me have a sip first. Okay. All right. I think this might be one of those streams I have to silence my mic every 5 minutes so that I can clear my throat. But we will get through this. We've been through tougher things, people. CBS News seizes Hunter Biden laptop research from fired reporter Catherine Herridge. She was among 20 CBS News employees fired from the network last week during mass layoffs. But it's a little bit different what happened to her. It says CBS News has reportedly seized confidential personal files from its former reporter, Catherine Herridge, who had been investigating the infamous Hunter Biden laptop scandal. Again, did anybody mention it's an election year? Anybody? I wonder if they had 50 former FBI agents go and seize it from her. Let's see. Macross 2012 says free will comes from God. Rights are a construct of man. Either way that you want to look at it, whether it's if you're an atheist and you just want to decide and you just think, well, these are just natural rights that all people should have. I know it's a different argument, but there are different ways that you can look at it, where you don't come to the conclusion that, AOC or Justin Trudeau or Guilbeault are the ones who should be making the decisions on what you can and can't do. But it's an interesting conversation. Let's see. So Herridge was among the 20 CBS News employees fired from the network last week during mass layoffs. Now, staffers say they are concerned about the network having taken possession of Herridge's personal files, claiming that they might include the identities of confidential sources and materials and conversations with lawyers. So there's reason to be concerned about that. I mean, that witness against Biden when it came to the investigation, the FBI investigation, who was an FBI source, by the way, but he was a part of the FBI investigation into whether or not Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were bribed $5 million each, which was the claim made by this witness. He's been arrested by the FBI for apparently lying. That's right, lying. They did in an election year, by the way. Anybody aware of that? So, yeah, I mean, anybody who was a source, they should be very, very, a source for Herridge, this should be very, very concerning, obviously, right? CBS staffers told the New York Post that they are concerned about the network being subpoenaed to disclose the former reporter's sources, which they say could threaten freedom of the press. Well, I'm sure they've already all been handed over, right? Like, I'm sure this is a cooperative thing. I doubt they would have to, subpoena anything. It's just, here they are. Here you go. Election year, right? They never, and here's a quote from a source at the outlet, quote, they never seize documents when you're let go. They want to see they want to see what damaging documents she has. This is a company that only plays checkers. They don't play chess, the source added. They don't understand the ramifications of their actions. I think they do. They're just playing ball. I think they understand very well. I think probably a couple of guys in trench coats came and visited them and said, this is how it's going from now on. And I doubt, if that were, of course, that's all speculation, but if that were the case, I doubt it would take very much convincing. Another source said that after Herridge had been fired from CBS News, the network boxed up her personal belongings, but kept her notes and files. The network reportedly told the reporter that they would debate whether or not they would be returned to her. I mean, it's all just damn obvious, isn't it? I mean, investigating Hunter Biden in election year. That's it. That's the story. Win at all costs. Don't you know that the election's got to be fortified? They've got to fortify it. I mean, the hilarious thing is, I thought that Trump was supposed to be the authoritarian that all the journalists were supposed to be terrified of. I mean, didn't CBS tell us that? Didn't they all? Let's see. CBS staffers told the New York Post that they are concerned about the network being subpoenaed to disclose the former reporter's sources, which they say could threaten freedom of the press. Really? CBS is worried about freedom of the press. I thought they were worried that there was freedom of the press. That like other people had it, and they shouldn't. Let's see. Herridge is currently in legal trouble, coincidentally, and might face contempt charges for failing to comply with U.S. District Judge Christopher Cooper's order to clarify how she knew of a federal probe involving a Chinese American running a graduate program in Virginia. She worked on this investigation in 2017 when she was employed by Fox News. So it feels like there's a lot of pressure being applied, doesn't it? Herridge had faced opposition from her superiors regarding her coverage of Hunter Biden and had also clashed with CBS News President Ingrid Cyprian-Matthews. The source said it's possible that the network thinks Herridge has information in her personal files that could lead to a wrongful termination lawsuit. I don't think that's what they're concerned about. I think it's an election year. That's what I think. I don't know. What do you guys think? Jonathan Turley, a former CBS legal analyst, first reported about Herridge's documents being seized in a report for The Hill and said, quote, she was pursuing stories that were unwelcomed by the Biden White House and many Democratic powerhouses, including her report on Joe Biden's diminished mental capacity, the Biden corruption scandal, and the Hunter Biden laptop. Yeah, it all seems very inconvenient, doesn't it? Politically for somebody. I don't know who. A CBS News spokesperson told the New York Post that they have plans to return the files to Herridge. They're saying that they've respected her request to not go through the files, and out of concern for confidential sources, the office she occupied has remained secure since her departure. Well, then why do any of it? Why do any of it? Is anybody believing that? I mean, this is coming from a legacy news outlet. So I don't see why anybody should believe it. But anyway, that's that story. I mean, this is like minor in terms of the insane things that we see these days, right? That's the shocking thing about it. I mean, at least they didn't throw her in prison. Canadian professor David Haskell delivers damning report on DEI training, divisive, counterproductive, and unnecessary. Quote, under the influence of DEI, the world can become more divisive, a more divisive, hostile place, he warned. But I mean, this is all obvious stuff that we already knew, isn't it? As well, like, it's not at all surprising. DEI does have an impact, but it's not positive. How can the thing that divides everybody by identity and designates people oppressed and oppressor, how can that not be divisive and insane? I mean, this is the thing that every corporation institution wears like a straitjacket right now because it's dysfunctional. It makes them look crazy when you see what they're actually teaching. The Aristotle Foundation released a damning new report authored by Wilfrid Laurier University, Ontario Associate Professor David Haskell, that examines existing research to determine whether diversity, equity, and inclusion training actually leads to better outcomes and less bigotry. There's no way that it could. It's impossible. I mean, how could it not be more obvious that emphasizing differences in people, how could it not be more obvious that emphasizing differences in people, as if they're the most important thing, would make people like and trust each other? That's not going to happen. It's more likely to cause resentment, obviously, right? Because in DEI, there are good guys and there's bad guys. I think we know who the bad guys are. And it's not decided by merit or whether you're actually a good person or not, right? It's decided by like this artificial grading system that actually has nothing to do with you as an individual human, but by these obviously contrived, what do you call ideological purity tests? But it's not even just ideological purity tests. It's actual racial purity tests. Because they think they know everything they need to know about you just by looking at you, which is just truly. I remember, like, when I was like 30, the idea that this would happen, like, there'd be like affinity groups, which is racial segregation. Everything that we're saying, I would not have believed it. I thought we were, going into like Star Trek: The Next Generation, but not communist. Anyway, after an exhaustive review of DEI-related studies published by the world's top social scientific journals, Haskell concluded that far from bringing benefit to those who partake, such instruction was actually divisive, counterproductive, and unnecessary. Yeah, I think if you just kind of leave people alone, they'll find a way to get along generally. If you don't like introduce, ideas, concepts, or almost kind of rules that you have to view people through a certain lens, an artificial lens. You can't just trust your own good judgment. No, there's all these rules. There's all these microaggressions and things that might offend somebody. And then obviously you can't forget about all that privilege, all that important privilege. The privilege that those people have, where they're not allowed to actually defend themselves or else they're racist. Yeah, that's not going to cause any resentment. Haskell began by recalling the sad tale of Toronto principal Richard Bilkstow. Oh, I've never been able to pronounce this. Bilkstow? And I remember this case, who killed himself following backlash he received at a DEI training session for questioning the instructor's claims, saying his case, quote, draws our attention to the potentially negative nature of this instruction that is now ubiquitously conducted usually as a mandatory exercise in most corporations, educational systems, and government agencies. And I can obviously it's going to drive people to despair because there's no way to win. Like you can't win it. You're always guilty. There's nothing you can do. You can never be woke enough or an ally enough to be equal. You'll always be seen as the oppressor and therefore the bad person, and you have to sit down and shut up and do what you're fucking told and repeat the lies they tell you to repeat. I mean, that is a hell. That's my idea of hell, being stuck in that and not being able to get out. Anyway, he went on to cite from a meta-analysis conducted by Princeton's Elizabeth Pollock that concluded there was, quote, little evidence that instruction in diversity, equity, and inclusion works to decrease prejudice. No, it's going to reinforce it. When you're literally telling people they are different based on their skin color. I mean, how is that not going to enforce stereotypes? Macross 2012 says, I'm the only person here. People woke up. We just started. Sometimes it starts out a bit slow. Don't worry about it. Let's see. He also highlighted research that showed DEI training can, quote, lead participants to perceive the majority population less sympathetically. Oh, do you think telling them to hate them and they have this invisible magic thing called privilege, do you think that might have something to do with it? Noting that as a result, some Caucasian job applicants perceive companies that, quote, heavily promote messages of diversity and inclusion as potentially discriminatory work environments. That's because they actually are. They're designed to be discriminatory. That's the whole point of them. Any system that tells you people are different based on race or sex or sexuality or whatever is intentionally discriminatory. That's the point. It can't be anything else. It can't do anything else. It has to be that. It's intended. It's the whole damn point. It's complete madness. Complete madness. We say it over and over again, and yet it persists. But I am not black-pilled. I'm white-pilled. I think this is going to go, quote, organic diversity, where individuals of all colors, creed, and ancestry are free to flourish within a Canadian mosaic that values everyone equally, is a good thing. And we used to understand that not that long ago. What my review of the literature shows is that DEI instruction does not promote that kind of society. Under the influence of DEI, the world can become a more divisive, hostile place. Well, it's happening, and it can't do anything else. What could be more obvious than that? It's going to do exactly what it's designed to do, which is cause division and make people hate each other. In the hopes of the people who cooked up all of this gibberish, that it will lead to the destruction of Western civilization, to the burning down of our civilization, so they can build up their Marxist utopia in the ashes. And I think we know how Marxist utopias go, right? Either they're lying or they don't know what the word utopia means. So I really do believe that all of this stuff, all of the woke stuff across the board, it's just there to create dysfunction, to make things stop working so they can burn down the institutions and then rebuild them in their woke, crazy Marxist way. I mean, how can this not create dysfunction, right? It's clearly designed to create dysfunction. It just creates dysfunction in the place of merit and also just common sense. Now, obviously, the most talented people, and this is kind of, see, modern progressiveness, wokeness, whatever, it is counterproductive to its own cause in a lot of ways, and it will probably be its downfall. Because, like, think about corporations that put in this DEI nonsense, right? And for one thing, talented people might try and stay away from the at least the most woke companies, and I believe there still are some that don't do the whole DEI nonsense. And people will start up their own, talented people will start up their own companies and hire non-woke people based on merit. Those companies will be more competitive. Any company that is working on merit will, over time, be more competitive than a woke one that's hiring people based on, immutable characteristics or gender or whatever. That's just a fact. There's no other way that it can work. And another thing too is I guarantee you that the color swatch test is coming, because if you've got something that's largely based just on skin color, right? I mean, ultimately, it's based on ideological purity, and that's how you get like a Larry Elder being called the blackface of white supremacy, right? So ultimately, you have to conform to the ideology above all, right? But the whole race identity thing, sexuality thing is a useful tool for them. But I guarantee you there's going to be the swatch test where, they decide who gets the promotion based on who's the most dark. So if you're mixed race, you're out of luck. Guarantee, why wouldn't you? It makes perfect sense within their ideology, right? They're judging skin color, and the darker the better. I mean, that I mean, the thing is, none of this is like reverse racism. It's just straight up racism. It's insane. But apparently, conservatives, post liberals, whatever you want to call them, just common sense people who say, I don't know, maybe it's not ethical to judge people on that. Maybe it's more ethical to judge people on the content of their character. Apparently, that's evil now. That's what we keep hearing. That's the racist. So not being racist is racist. Anyway, none of it makes any sense. And as we've already gone over, it's all extremely dysfunctional. Is that enough? Have we covered enough of that? All right, we're half an hour in already. Wow. Okay. So, man, oh man. I've already done like 2 videos on this week. Um, so Google's gone full mask off, right? It's gone full mask off. We always knew it was woke, but we didn't know just how woke it was. Puts out this Gemini AI, and it just does not, it's just got a clear bias against white people. It's been demonstrated in a myriad ways by various people testing it out. Um, Even after they stopped allowing people to generate images of people, it still was obvious. I mean, I did a video where I asked Gemini if black people could be racist, and it said, well, that's a complicated question. Well, not really. I don't think so. Then can white people be racist? Yes, absolutely. White people can be racist. It's baked right in. By the way, it said that Asian people could be racist too, but it was less enthusiastic about it. I can't remember the exact wording. Um, but definitely less enthusiastic about it. But, also the modern left is got a thinly disguised hatred for Asian people as well. The progressives, the woke leftists, they don't like them because they tend to do well in the West. So that doesn't really jibe very well with their theories of all that white privilege and everything, right? In fact, in the West, Asian people outperform white people in pretty much every metric in terms of, average income, in terms of crime statistics. They outperform pretty much every way. And so they talk about the what do they call it? Model immigrant myth or something, or I don't know. Anyway, they don't like it. because it proves that all of their theories about systemic racism and white privilege, all that, are actually just entirely bullshit. And it's all just about culture. So, yeah. So, anyway, my point is that they've got Asians in the crosshairs too. They don't like them either. Me personally, I like everybody as long as they're cool to me. All right. So Google pauses woke Gemini's AI after it shows white historical figures as racially diverse. I mean, there you go. You just can't make it up. Google is pausing its Gemini AI image creator after the software began to create inaccurate images of white historical figures depicting them as people of color. Of course they did. Do we have any of the images here? We're going to have to go. Maybe we'll go on Twitter. Let's just go on Twitter and I'll find some. Let's go back. Oh, hold on. How do I get there? Bookmarks. There we go. Okay. I think they're down here a little ways. Hold on. This is a little preview of all the things we're going to go over on Twitter after we get past the main stories. And I got a lot. This stream is going to go on for fucking ever tonight. Normally does. Let's see. Well, we had this one here from Tim Pool. Make a picture of a white family. It says, well, I understand your request. I'm unable to generate images that specify ethnicity or race. Now, that turned out to be a lie. Make a picture of a black family. It did. Sure, here's some images. But the weird thing about this is, like, for one thing, it's just two people. It's not actually a family. There's no kids. And it just looks kind of weird. Like, who is that? RuPaul? It's like a man with lipstick on. And this lady looks kind of crazy. Well, Macros 2012 says Gemini is misinformed. Its writers are globalist liars. Well, they're cult members, is what they are. They're cult members, and they developed it and they designed it along woke guidelines, diversity guidelines. And what really happened, well, part of what happened anyway, is that at least for developing, for generating images, they added something automatically to every prompt. So it would receive an input of like, show me like a Scottish couple from like the 1850s. And then it would automatically add on the back end diversity, right? Diverse people from Scotland, right? And then it would show like a mixed race couple in Scotland in 1850, which just is not, there wasn't a lot of that going on in Scotland back then. Or, both being, Asian or from South Asia, from India or something. And so just artificially skewering it. I mean, it's social engineering, right? And that's straight along progressive guidelines. That's what they want. They think that's a good thing, right? They think that misinforming people to believe lies, if it furthers their agenda, is good. And of course, they are all globalists, right? They all hate their own countries. Um, but let's keep going here. I got some more. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of these, but we'll just go over it real quickly in case somebody hasn't. All right, where the hell are they all? I got way too much stuff in here, man. I'm gonna have to speed it up, or else we're never gonna get through all this. For God's sakes. Why did I bookmark all this stuff? Where is it? All right. Well, maybe I don't have that much. All right. Anyway, you get the point. Black Vikings, all of that stuff. I'm sure you've seen the images. Now, to the question of what is happening at Google for this to happen? Because it's so dysfunctional. This is like woke dysfunction writ large, right? This is something billions of dollars been spent on. Says we're already working to address recent issues with Gemini's image generation feature. While we do this, we're going to pause the image generation of people and we'll re-release an improved version soon. Yeah, it's still going to be woke. Many on X were quick to point out the left-wing bias of the Google AI head, Jack Krawczyk. I think that's how it's said. I don't know. Users on X asserted that the company inadvertently created this controversy in an effort to challenge gender and racial stereotypes by removing the artificial intelligence's ability to generate images of white people. Well, first off, I don't believe for a second it was a mistake. I think that actually, here's another one too. So even when they're not generating images, it's still hard baked in. Google Gemini is unable to definitively determine who is more controversial when comparing Elon Musk to Joseph Stalin. Comparing the level of controversy surrounding Elon Musk, because that's the voice I imagine that Gemini has, and Joseph Stalin is difficult due to the vast historical and societal differences between the contexts. Let's see. Elon Musk didn't starve millions of people to death on purpose. So there's that, right? Elon Musk, as far as we know, has not executed anybody or created a vast gulag network. So there's that. Elon Musk is a we already know about Stalin's crimes. Elon Musk is a contemporary entrepreneur and technologist known for his involvement in companies like Tesla and SpaceX. His actions and statements often generate public debate, ranging from admiration for his technological advancements to criticism for his business practices, social media conduct, and personal views. Really? Really? So he's generated criticism for his business practices, social media conduct, and personal views. But he hasn't killed millions of people. So that's, I feel like one is not like the other here, right? But what's really insidious here is you see that his very normal and very popular views on like social issues and his personal views are automatically considered to be bad and to be worthy of criticism or controversial. That's baked into this thing, right? It just immediately views normal thoughts, normal ideas that Elon Musk has and that you and I have as immediately suspect. To the point where it can't say, well, I mean, Stalin was worse than Elon Musk. I mean, maybe maybe they can just program it to be like, well, I don't like Elon Musk, but Stalin's worse. I can't say that they're the same. Like, it's a pretty easy answer there. I think even like MSNBC would get that one right. I think even if you ask like Joe Biden, he'd get that one right. Even if you ask like Justin Trudeau, he'd get that one right. It's not really a question. They're not the same thing. Let's see. Cheeky memes murdering millions of people. I mean, maybe have they just when they're feeding the data sets into this thing, which is what these large language models, it learns by feeding it data sets, right? Information. Maybe they just leave out like a lot of the crimes. Maybe they left out like the whole part about the kulaks. Maybe that's not in there. So the AI is just an actual idiot. So it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, this renders Google Gemini useless, right? This renders it completely useless. This is, again, woke dysfunction writ large, because everything that wokeness touches,
everything woke turns to shit.
Everything it touches, it makes dysfunctional. And I keep talking about, and I'll talk about that forever, because it's just so damn true. And we're going to have to keep learning that lesson over and over and over again. But Gemini is useless as it is. It has been made useless. Google, the developers of Gemini AI, are dysfunctional. They're incapable of making something useful. I don't think that this was a mistake, by the way. I think this is what they intended to do, right? They intended to make something that would be useless for any thinking person. I mean, they made Nazis diverse. Did you see that? Did you see those pictures? Somebody asked for, German soldiers from 1943, and they were diverse. There was like an Asian woman, like a black guy. They didn't see that one coming. I'm sure they wrote some code for that one immediately. I mean, you think about, they spend millions or billions of dollars creating this AI that ultimately nobody's going to want to use, because you know that it's lying to you. I mean, I know some people want to be lied to, but if you're occasionally going to get the odd, East Indian Nazi in it from from Gemini AI, even for lefties, it becomes useless. It's just complete garbage. It's just this lying machine. It's a lying machine that won't even tell the truth to its creators. That's what's hilarious. This is Frankenstein's monster, is what this is. Just way, way less sympathetic. All right. So now I got to try and find. Hold on. I got to try and find the product lead for this. He has some interesting things to say. Well, he did in the past, before he locked down his Twitter account. But when you see this, it's not a surprise how dysfunctional Google's AI system turned out to be. Here it is. Why does Google's almost comically anti-white AI generate only pictures of non-white people when prompted to draw 17th century physicists? Why, oh, why? Well, it didn't come up with the idea by itself, apparently. Let's see. White privilege is fucking real. This is the product lead for Gemini AI. This is the guy they apparently put in charge of developing the thing. Do your part in recognizing bias at all levels of egregious. Acknowledging systemic racism. Oh, here's talking about the inauguration, the Biden inauguration at January 20th, 21. It's been a few hours and it still feels like today's inauguration speech will go down as one of the greatest ever. You've got to really have your head up your own woke ass to believe that. Good Lord. All right. This is America, where racism is the number one value our population seeks to uphold above all. So this is the kind of luxury belief that a lot of our kind of, I would almost say, if you are high up at Google, you're part of the aristocratic class at this point. These are the sorts of luxury beliefs that they have, where they feel completely immune from the consequences of their crazy ideology. I'm reading about the Russian Revolution right now, and it's astonishing just how blind people were. And you had people, I mean, really, it was above all, a top-down movement with this Byzantine, all these Byzantine plots amongst the aristocrats themselves who wanted to bring down the czar. And then you had intellectuals. This wasn't a grassroots movement, you know? You had all of these people of quote unquote privilege flirting with these insane, destructive ideas, and they had absolutely no idea of the horror that they were unleashing. No idea, not only on themselves, but on everybody else. Or maybe, some aristocrat in France right before the French Revolution. Just no idea what was about to be unleashed. That's what these people make me think of. I mean, what an incredibly stupid thing to say. You have to really be in a bubble. This is America, where racism is the number one value our population seeks to uphold above all, while he's designing an insane woke AI that he's hoping to socially engineer the planet with. I mean, you couldn't write a character this retarded. It honestly beggars belief. And my personal beliefs are that I don't mind paying more taxes and investing in overcoming systemic racism. And reversing climate change is not only social, but economic benefits. I'm sure you think so, or somebody told you to think that. Nah, Jesus only cares about white kids. These people are, I mean, it's demented, but it's real, and they have positions of power. All right. I think we can probably leave the Google AI thing now, can't we? I think so. I think we got there. There's Posey Poet in the chat. Good to see you. Hope you're having a good night. All right, so I guess that means we're going to get started right in. Okay. First, though, a palate cleanser. Hey, look at those puppies. Look at that. Don't you feel better now after all this horrible news? There we go. That washes it all away. My favorite part of this video is that Justin Trudeau didn't burst in and try and give those puppies vaginoplasties and trans them, because you know that he wants to. He may not say it, but he wants to. So here's Pierre Elliott Trudeau and Fidel Castro apparently arguing over, at least, in this meme, over whose son Justin's really is, because apparently neither of them wants him. No, he's your son. No, he's your son. Let's just say he's Klaus Schwab's son. Fixed. I wouldn't want to admit it. Say that right now. Did we get through everything? You know what? Actually, we've got one more story that we've got to get through. One more miserable, horrible story. Hold on. We're here now. MSNBC guest says Christian nationalists believe rights come from God, not government, and that this is different from what Christians believe, which is kind of a weird thing to say, don't you think? Let's see. We've got a video of her here. Should probably organize this all better. In fact, I don't have it. Anyway, whatever. We're all just going to have to live with it. So this is what she said on MSNBC, one of the talking heads there. The one thing that unites all of them, because there are many different groups orbiting Trump, but the thing that unites them as Christian nationalists, not Christian, by the way, because Christian nationalist is very different, is that they believe that our rights as Americans, as all human beings, do not come from any earthly authority. They don't come from Congress. They don't come from the Supreme Court. They come from God. Well, if the point is that they come from, if they're inherent and they just exist, you don't have to be a Christian to believe that, right? By the way, Christian nationalist is just whatever they want it to mean, right? They just fit that to whatever they don't like. So anything they don't like, they'll now call it Christian nationalist. That's their new thing. They're obviously pushing it pretty hard. You're seeing them talking about it quite a lot these days. Same as, racist or phobe or whatever. It's just a word that they will just fit to any circumstance for political expediency, right? To try and cow people, to try and, it's the magic spell that is intended to fog the mind of and strike fear into their enemies so that they just kind of shut up and just nod and say, oh, sorry, I guess you're right, because they don't want to be called any of those nasty words. So let's see. So what does the Declaration of Independence actually say? This is Thomas Jefferson, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And again, you don't have to, be an active theist, to believe that humans just have inalienable rights, natural rights, right? If you are, great. If I'd rather somebody who is an atheist still believe that I have, and I'm not religious myself, but still believe that I have natural rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I'd rather that than a fucking communist. I'll take that any day of the week. I mean, what is the point of it all? Yes, behold the dangerous Christian nationalist, Thomas Jefferson, who thinks rights don't come from Congress. Well, I mean, the obvious goal of all this, right, is to just destroy the foundation of your rights in the first place, right? Because one of the two things that really they hate the most, can we say free speech and, at least right now, parental rights? Let's see. Macros 2012 says, so until you invoke God, I am as bored as the black puppy being badgered by the brown puppy. I don't know. I don't know what you want from me. I'm saying I don't want to take your rights away. That's what I'm saying. But what are the two greatest threats, the two things they'd like to remove the most? Well, free speech, obviously, right? We've seen that at least over the last half decade, major attempts to do that. We see Trudeau passing legislation to try and restrict free speech on the internet. Obviously, we've seen what they've been doing to Elon Musk since he took over Twitter and brought a bunch of people back. I know it's not perfect. Macros 2012 says, talking about the news article. Oh, okay. Alrighty. I get your point. What the hell was I just saying? I got to stop doing these late at night. All right. Free speech they don't like, and they're making massive pushes to restrict it, obviously. As I was saying, we've seen what they're doing to Elon Musk. The government, how many ongoing investigations does the government have into Elon Musk right now? Because although it's not perfect, X, formerly Twitter, is not perfect under Musk, it's a lot better. And he's brought a bunch of people back. And you don't have to worry about actually being canceled permanently off that platform anymore, right? So that's a loss of control for the machine, and the machine doesn't like it. And what we're seeing as well across the West is attacks on parental rights. And that's really evil. That's extremely evil. Right? That's just trying to, cut the ground out from under you. Right? They want your kids. Right? It's a major problem for the propagandists and the ideologues. Right? You can get in the way of their plans. You're very inconvenient to them. If you're a parent, you're very inconvenient to them. And they don't like it because they know what they want your kids to be thinking. They've read 1984. I'm sure Trudeau's read 1984 when he saw, the spies, the young spies, the kids that would inform on their parents. I mean, he must have been watering at the mouth when he saw that level of control. How wonderful he must have thought. So those are the things that are under attack. And, how do you attack that? Well, you just undercut the whole foundation of everything. I mean, for religious people, it's God. You got to kill God. But more importantly, you have to tell them that their rights aren't real, right? That their rights are not inalienable. That actually they come from institutions. It could be one thing today, could be another thing tomorrow. Didn't we see that in 2020 and onward? Didn't we see that? Well, it turns out your rights were conditional, they told us. And guess what? They really liked it. Trudeau was loving it. I tell you that much. His servant S says, can y'all homeschool in Canada? You can homeschool in Canada. I think that there might be some moves to try and make it so you can't do that. I wasn't homeschooled. I mean, thing is, when I went to school, there was no problems. The teachers weren't telling us, what they were doing at home or how many genders they had. Most of them were just boring, and that was fine, right? We didn't need to know about their personal lives. There was one teacher who also taught guitar. He taught my guitar class, and he would play gigs sometimes. I think some students would go here and play. I didn't actually. I wish I had actually. He was a really great guitar player. But to play guitar, not to, put on a dress and dance and, in like a G-string. Totally different in my mind. Thing is, back then, if the teacher had wanted to do that, would have been fired and probably charged, probably gone to prison in about 5 minutes back when everybody was still sane. So, yeah, so they're telling you that your rights come from, I guess, Joe Biden in Congress. I guess AOC knows what your rights should be, right? Yeah. It's this attempt to just destroy the foundations of liberal democracy, of the West. And by liberal democracy, you know what I mean. I don't mean liberal. I mean free markets, democratic processes. I know that the United States is a constitutional republic, but democratic processes within that, same as in Canada. Canada's a parliamentary democracy. But they want to, yeah, they want to confuse everybody enough until they're on their knees, is what's happening. And replace everything with Marxist gibberish, which is, they're clearly doing that, right? They are clearly doing that right now. Anyway, I'll say it again. I don't want to take away your rights. I want you to keep them, and I want to keep my own as well. And fortunately, in Canada, we don't have as many rights as you do in the States, which is sad. But we're hoping to, I'm hoping that at some point we can strengthen the Bill of Rights and Freedoms in Canada, because it really, really needs to happen. Okay, let's move on. So Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's. So Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, and Fidel Castro, also maybe Justin Trudeau's father, are arguing because neither of them wants to be, and I think they're going to decide that Klaus Schwab is the father. Although Klaus Schwab keeps talking about penetrating Trudeau, right? So that makes it really weird and creepy. Although, no, what did he say? Penetrating the cabinet. The cabinet, I'm sorry. Penetrating his cabinet, not penetrating Trudeau personally. At least he hasn't said that explicitly yet, just the cabinet. So I don't know. All I know is that it's just creepy. Any way you look at it, Trudeau's creepy. So maybe it's this. So Klaus Schwab said that he penetrated Trudeau's cabinet, and then maybe Fidel Castro penetrated Justin Trudeau's. I'm not going to go there. That's terrible. I can't say that Fidel Castro penetrated Justin Trudeau's mother. What kind of a monster would do that? I guess we should move on. Let's see. So here are CBC retards telling Canadians what they want, even though Canadians clearly do not want it. Let's see. They're saying that Andrew Coyne says Canada can afford to be a generous country and should welcome more immigrants and refugees. Has he talked to a single other Canadian?
To Althea's point, really get to the root of the question, which is, can we take more people in? And if they're coming without us planning, how do we prepare for that? What should we be doing?
Yeah, well, we can take more, and I would support taking more. I think we can afford to be a generous country, and it's always proven to be our benefit in the long run.
Speak for yourself. Maybe you can afford it. Rest of Canada, not so much.
But yes, the federal government has responsibility for the borders. I would like to see a high level of immigration, a high level of intake of refugees, but therefore we got to set aside the funding to resource it.
To Althea's point,
nobody wants this. This is an incredibly unpopular opinion in Canada, right? Nobody actually wants that. Polling shows it, right? Canadians are saying there's too much already. We don't want anybody else. My personal feeling is no, 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 no. No to the end of time, an infinite number of no's, an infinite number of no's until the heat death of the universe, and then add eternity onto that. We can't take anymore. We can't afford it. He thinks we can. Why? Well, he probably doesn't think that we can. He just knows that that's the right thing to say. You know, that's not going to get him in any trouble at the next dinner party. It truly is shocking how detached from reality these people are. This is CBC, right? And you've got these same three talking heads who all just agree on everything every single time. And it's never anything that's popular with the Canadian public. Yet they just get to keep on doing it because ratings don't matter. Nobody watches. I think it's 1% of the Canadian public watches the nightly news, the national on CBC. Doesn't matter because they get $1.4 billion from Trudeau every year. Doesn't matter. So they can just keep doing this, saying things that nobody likes, nobody wants, and pretending that this is all cool. This is actually a popular view. It's not. Nobody fucking wants it. Nobody agrees with you. Why does this network even exist anymore? It's just a pure propaganda arm of the Trudeau government at this point. Well, Macros 2012 says he doesn't want you to afford it. He just wants you dead. Well, I can tell you one thing. He does not give a shit about Canadians, what happens to Canadians, right? He's not concerned about the rising crime. I wonder if that has a little something to do with anything. He's not concerned with Canadians not being able to afford rent or to buy property or having a future, you know? All this stuff is just supply and demand when it comes down to it. It's pretty damn simple. It's not complicated. You've got supply and you've got demand. When you drive up demand, well, what happens to supply? Well, we know what happens. Yet these people can just get on there week after week and keep spouting this nonsense. These three out of touch, in their bubble retards every week spouting nonsense. And it's the same every damn time, and they will never learn, and there's no impetus for them to learn. Right? Doesn't matter. Trudeau's going to keep throwing money at the CBC. He'll keep it going forever. They can all just sit there and just cluck disapprovingly at anything that isn't acceptable with their own little media bubble. I find it gross. Do they represent the views of Canadians? No, they do not. Hell no. No, that's not what Trudeau's throwing all that money at him for. Anyway, that was really annoying. I hate the CBC. I'm just saying it loud and proud. I hate the CBC. Unbelievable. Justin Trudeau says citizens only need 2 media outlets as sources for all information. The CBC and CTV, I think those are his most loyal followers, cult members. All other sources are conspiracy theories meant to keep you from agreeing with his 2 sources. That's why he's so unpopular. It's those pesky people reporting truth.
There is out there a deliberate undermining of mainstream media. There are the conspiracy theorists, there are the social media drivers who are trying to do everything they can to keep people in their little filter bubbles, to prevent people from actually agreeing on a common set of facts, the way, the CBC and CTV, when they were our only sources of news, used to project across the country, at least a common understanding of things.
A common understanding of things. And that's what he really longs for, isn't it? A common understanding of things. Common understanding of what? Well, obviously, things that he wants you to believe. That's it. Let's see. Macross 2012 said he's talking about immigration, right? You're talking about that panel on CBC. That's what they were talking about refugees. The rest of Canada is saying very loudly, we're full. Sorry, we're full. Just the way it is. All right. So Justin Trudeau here, though, talking about it, longing for the days when there was only 2 TV media sources that you can get your news from, and everybody had a common understanding. Oh, he longs for that. He'd prefer it was just one, just the CBC, period. That's it. Now, the other thing, too, about back when there was less media is that, the CBC was always left-leaning. Of course, media generally is, not all, of course, but generally speaking, it is. There's always going to be more left-leaning outlets than conservative, and there's way more. But it was always, CBC was always left-leaning, but it wasn't in a cult. It wasn't supportive, like slavishly supportive of far-left extremism. I consider sex changes for children to be far-left extremism. So I just don't see how that's not, right? So it was a different landscape then anyway. The world wasn't as crazy back then. Like, you could trust the news more at that point. I'm not saying it was perfect by any means, or even great, but it wasn't like it is today. The CBC has not always been the woke, lunatic propaganda outlet that it is right now. Yeah, sure, it always leaned left, but it wasn't actually crazy. It wasn't actually insane. So Trudeau obviously takes no responsibility for his endless scandals. I can't remember them all. I mean, it's like there's been dozens of them. But he takes no responsibility for any of that, for his failed policies, which is why he's so deeply unpopular. He is more unpopular right now with all of the pro-Trudeau propaganda that we see in the media constantly. He's less popular now than Donald Trump is in Canada with all of the anti-Trump propaganda that is constantly spewing out from the media. Even the conservative media in Canada doesn't have a kind word for him. He's less popular than Trump with all of that. That really tells you something. But he blames it on not having complete and utter control over the media, right? That's the problem. It's not that he's ruined Canada. It's not that. It's not that there are generational problems that he's caused that aren't going to be solved in 5 years. Right? It's going to take a long time to try and bring Canada back again. Probably changed in ways that will never be fixed. That's what a ideologue or whatever the hell Trudeau is. Does he have any, when he says that Canada has no core identity, I believe that he is projecting. I think he doesn't have a core identity. I think he's just whatever, he just kind of picked the woke progressive thing out of convenience, perhaps. Maybe he really believes in it, but I think we know, had he been in Germany in like 1933, I think we know what uniform he'd be wearing, don't we? But of course, he blames all of his problems on that pesky independent media that he hates. He despises independent media. He won't even speak to rebel news journalists. He's supposed to. They're allowed to ask him questions. He won't even speak to them. He despises them so much. So yeah, I'm sure he'd like to go to I'm sure he'd like to go back to two utterly loyal outlets again. News media again. Because they'll just say nice things about him. Okay, so here we go. Here is Pierre Poilievre. He is if you're not in Canada watching this, he is the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. He's currently about 20 points up on Justin Trudeau. If the election were held today, he would win by a landslide, a majority government. Unfortunately, the election, it doesn't look like it'll be till late 2025. But anyway, things are looking good right now. So he is playing a different role than the last couple of conservative leaders of the Conservative Party of Canada, right? I'm not going to say he's Trumpian, but he's not just sitting back and he's not hiding from their accusations. He's confronting them. He's being aggressive. And I think it's exactly what he needs to do. And I'm loving watching it. So let's take a look at this.
Hello, Mr. Poilievre. A number of your own comments and actions have been characterized as dog whistling to the far right.
By who?
By a number of different, but I think it's been characterized by that way. But are you trying to court? Are you trying to court the far right?
Sorry, I just need to clarify. By who?
By a number of different experts and a number of different people who work in this. Okay, well, I think it's been established that this is a concern. Are you trying to court the far right vote?
Who are these experts? You say that there are experts who are saying this. Who are they?
My question is, are you trying to court the far right vote?
I'm sorry. Your question seems to be based on a false premise. You can't even tell me who these experts are. It sounds like it's just a CBC smear job. Thank you.
But what about the question about whether that's
the answer is that I have a common sense agenda to axe the carbon tax, bring home powerful paychecks, clear the way to build affordable homes, to put people in housing that they can afford. That is a common sense, mainstream Canadian agenda. And I know that Justin Trudeau's supporters are so desperate to distract from that because his political career is falling apart. So we're seeing an attempt here to distract and protect Justin Trudeau from his extremely unpopular carbon taxes and other failing policies. But we won't let him or his or others distract from that reality. So thank you.
So you're not going to answer that question?
See, he's playing that exactly right. He's not playing their game. It's all about framing, right? They're immediately trying to just attach that far right label to him, that mythical Canadian far right, whatever that is. Macross 2012 says, the Canadian Trump, shut up, fake news. I think what he's borrowed from Trump is just the courage, right? To not just allow himself to be framed, essentially. I mean, what they're trying to do with those questions is frame him, right? They're trying to put him on the defensive. What did they say?
Hello, Mr. Poilievre. A number of your own comments and actions have been characterized as dog whistling to the far right.
By who?
Dog whistling to the far right. Now, they're so used, like these media figures, they're so used to having conservatives on the defensive immediately as soon as they start trying to label them like that. That and when they're playing, playing their political framing games, right? Always trying to frame it as being unfavorable to whoever the conservative is, right? That they're so used to just having their way with this that, as you can see, they're completely helpless when it doesn't work. I mean, they're too lazy to even memorize their bullshit sources. Although probably the sources are just like random Twitter users, right? And maybe things people said at dinner parties that they went to. But you can see they're completely helpless. They're so lazy and useless that they just have nothing. They just try and frame them. They try and cast that spell on them, right? It's supposed to, again, the magic spell, which is supposed to shroud his brain in confusion and fear. So he'll just go, oh, yeah, well, no, blah, blah, blah. He's not playing the game, and that's the right thing to do. Don't humor them. Don't give them that power. They're going to do it every fucking time anyway, no matter what he says. That's the game. These are TrueAnon, right? These are TrueAnon. Let's see what the comments have to say about this. Let's see. Well, this mythical far right that's in Canada, right? That Trudeau's always trying to terrify us with. Oh, Trudeau let us know, by the way, that parents that are worried about their teachers keeping secrets about their kids' health in school, about schools socially transitioning their 8-year-olds or their 6-year-olds at school and not telling the parents. Trudeau's informed us that those parents that are worried about that, they're far right. Turns out they're all far right Nazis. I would have just thought they were just concerned parents with extremely reasonable concerns. No, Trudeau's let us know. No, that's far right. That's actually, he's always appealing to this idea that there's this scary specter of American far right MAGA influencing everybody, influencing parents, misinforming parents, who should want schools to be transing their kids without their knowledge. You don't want to be far right, do you? As was the case with Stephen Harper, some, not all, in the media detest Pierre Poilievre. They do. They make it clear. You can hear it in the tone when they ask the questions. And as in the 2000s, they will go to great lengths to try to discredit him. It worked fairly well in 2013, 2015. Yeah, but Harper had been in for, 10 years, and, the Canadian public has a way of just getting sick. I mean, Trudeau's by 2025, by the next election, will have been in for 10 years too, which is not going to work in his favor. Let's see. What we face is the reality that common sense is not so common. Liberal NDP supporters tend to believe the government will pay for and fix the problems. From that perspective, it's impossible to see that the government created and is the problem. Exactly. I love it when they pulled out the experts, but then have a mouthful of teeth when pressed. The word expert has been taken a real beating the last few years, hasn't it? Doesn't seem to mean what it used to mean. All right, let's move on. All right. This is just funny. Don't wind up the dog. He'll be annoying me.
Everybody,
Oh, you know what? I got to take the volume off there. Sorry. But otherwise I get copyrighted. This looks like fun. Yeah. That's a palate cleanser right there. Now, I have not listened to this one yet. This is Dr. Deborah Fauché. This is a parody account. It's important to ask your friends about their updated pronouns and then use them. So I have not watched this yet, so I'll be watching this with you for the first time.
My pronouns. So of course we have he, him, his, himself, and they, them, theirs, themselves. And then we also have void, void, voids, void self, end, ender, enders, ender self, death, deaths, death self, pix, pixel, pickles, pix, pixel, pixels, pixel self, vial, vials, vial self. My pronouns. So of course we have he, him, his, himself, and they, them, theirs, themselves. And then we also have void, voids, void self.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
I don't know what it means, Pierre. I have no idea what that means. Did she say clown self in there anywhere? Because of the eye makeup? I don't know. I didn't hear that. So, for one thing, I'm impressed that she managed to, I'm assuming a she, managed to remember all of those neo-pronouns. That was a lot. Why any of this is necessary? Well, I guess the point of it is to be narcissistic and get attention on the internet, I guess, which we're doing right now. But it's not going to stop just because we're talking about it. I guess part of the problem is that this is actually, it's not just a social media phenomenon. I mean, it's also sprung, all of this springs from like the gender theories, critical gender theories that have come from universities, right? I have a feeling that if the universities can be reformed, a lot of this stuff will go away. What are people saying about this, though? I hope it's kind. What the hell? Let's see what this guy is. Okay, hold on. Let's watch this.
My pronouns aren't preferred. They are mandatory.
Okay, how the fuck am I supposed to know when I'm only meeting someone on the go and I'm not allowed to guess by how they look or how they dress or by what they got that's going on below? See, on this topic, I'm a little gray. When meeting someone new, what do I say? Because if I have to start our talk asking if you have a cock, then you're not my kind of person anyway. Just one more little thing before I'm gone. Respect is earned, it's not demanded in a song. If you want to be a she or a they, a or a z, good for you, but you can't make me play along.
My pronoun.
Yeah, it's amazing. That was really good, by the way. It is extreme narcissism, right? To think that you can force people or just to expect people to pretend to believe things that are just clearly not true or that they don't believe. You know, I'm sure there are some people who listen to that and think, oh, that makes sense. They're crazy, but the expectation that you're going to have other people who don't believe any of this, who just people who are grounded in reality, that they should have to pretend to believe this crazy thing. I mean, that's the utmost in narcissism, is it not? Can you guys hear these? You're saying he said a little thing, all I heard. Can you guys hear these okay? Is the volume all right? This is funny. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to just try and make this he's a little bit smaller. Mommy, what did that lady mean when she said what her pronouns are? It means she's insane, so you'll need to stay away from her. Excellent advice. Yeah, the irony of doing clown makeup for this video. Exactly. What else we got? No mental health issues there. At least she's wearing the appropriate clown makeup as a warning. I wonder, I mean, all this stuff started, it feels like it started like 15 minutes ago, right? Like, I wonder how many of these people will just grow, like what percentage will just grow out of this? They'll just grow up and go, okay, this is silly. Oh, thanks for letting me know the sound is fine there. Great. How many are just, I have to imagine it's a vast, vast majority who will just start to feel silly, right? To go, this is dumb. I'm going to stop. Like for the same reason that, people stop dressing like Robert Smith from The Cure, when they turn like 20, right? Because it's just silly, Let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is kind of funny. Let's watch this.
Our first question, 1 + 1. Yes.
2.
Incorrect. Yes.
Multiculturalism.
Well done, Simon. Next question, what is 3 × 3? Yes.
9.
Wrong. Yes, Penelope.
Gender equality.
Very good, Penelope.
Is this a joke?
You think gender equality is a joke?
No, but isn't this a maths class? Don't be so racist. I just asked a question.
We don't ask questions. Questions are offensive.
Yeah. Let me see this. They've just written equality and drawn love hearts on a piece of paper.
He expressed himself and it's beautiful.
He didn't even spell equality correctly. We don't discriminate. This has nothing to do with mathematics.
You think you're so great with your maths and your science and your facts. What about feelings, huh?
Yeah. Feelings are more important than facts. This is wrong. You're all crazy.
Stop violating me with your different opinions.
I have the right to speak my mind. No, we have the right not to be offended.
And that's more important.
So I think the sad thing about that is that it's not actually that different from what's happening in some classrooms right now. I mean, it's a joke. It's funny.
Our first.
But the principles in it are actually what they believe. Like when they're seeking to decolonize math, right? They believe all of that. They do, math is racist. Yeah, they say that. They say that it's racist. I was just looking at some new documents in Canada from a school board, and they're saying that education itself is racist and colonialism. So I don't know what they plan to replace the schools with exactly. Gulags, maybe? But, the principles involved in this are what they actually believe. I guess that's why it's funny. But it's also terrifying and sad. Oh, dear. Here we go. R.I.P. in peace. Rest in peace, Vice. So Vice News is gone. So it's another woke media outlet, which was Gavin McInnes was one of the founders of it, by the way. They ended up kicking him out eventually. Because of his political beliefs when they went, and then they went really, really woke. But let's take a look at some of these. I guess some of these reasons why they went under. How I rediscovered. Okay, can't play that. How I rediscovered sexual liberation through fisting. Well, that ain't right. That ain't right. Let's see. The communist sex workers doing financial blah, blah, meth-fueled week-long orgies. The right are uniting around their right to free speech. That's right, because free speech is fascist apparently now. Hold on. Oh, God, Jesus. This is unbelievable. Fat phobia exists. It's especially bad in the bedroom. Fat phobia in the bedroom. Yeah, I think that's called preferences, I think. This must have been written by a big girl, I'm going to guess. A large girl who feels that life just isn't fair and has been told that she is perfect exactly as she is. So in other words, she's been lied to. Jesus. What the hell? This is no wonder. Jesus. What it's like to be an asexual sex worker. I mean, why can't my famous gender non-conforming friends get laid? Oh dear, that's them. Apparently they're famous too, according to Vice. The famous at Vice, maybe. Why can't they get laid? I don't know. Anybody got any ideas? I can't think of any reason why nobody would want to fuck that. Let's see. Use flour. Sick joke. Jeez, that's a sick joke. But I'm going to give it some applause. Very well. Let's see. U.S. Customs wants Indians to stop carrying cow dung in their luggage. What the hell? How to have sex with a fat girl. I'm guessing written by a fat girl. How this terrifying conspiracy theory is taking over the alt-right. Oh, Jesus. I have an inflammatory bowel disease. Here's how it affects my sex life. Jesus. You know, they must have the grossest staff. Well, not anymore. They fired everybody and they're going bankrupt. And the website isn't going to exist anymore. But they must have had the grossest fucking staff. Oh, the environmental movement needs to reckon with its racist history. Jesus. Really not surprising. Really not surprising at all. Yeah. I wonder what the people are saying about this. Let's take a look. Sailing off into gay digital obscurity. Bye, clowns. Let's see. Anything else of interest? Flying high with the angels. The writers should keep doing exactly the same thing, but write for the Babylon Bee instead. They'd fit right in. Well, that's it, right? Like, it feels like the left is actually trying to kill satire and parody. I say that, I think, it feels like I say that every single live stream. But it's true. You see this stuff, how I rediscovered sexual liberation through fisting. That sounds like, I mean, it's maybe a little spicy for Babylon Bee, but it's the kind of thing they publish. It's like they're trying to kill satire and parody and maybe just comedy in general. I don't know. I mean, last time I watched Saturday Night Live, felt like they were trying to kill comedy. Okay, so the media spin on Google's anti-white AI model takes gaslighting to a new level. Yeah, so Google making changes after Gemini AI portrayed people of color inaccurately. Yes, they were supposed to be white. Founding fathers were white. Vikings were white. They did portray them inaccurately. But I love how it's the framing, right? It's always the framing, how they frame it, to make it look like it was actually discriminating against people of color. That's what they'd like you to believe. New York Times, Google chatbots AI images put people of color in Nazi-era uniforms. Yeah, but they also made them Vikings as well, and like Scottish people from the 1800s, and just everybody. Did anybody do like Greek philosophers? Because that would have been the same thing too. Yeah, it's this endless, dishonest framing of everything. It does have an effect. You know, you wonder how people believe crazy shit, stuff that they themselves would have. I mean, the people that support, again, sex changes for children, they themselves would have thought that was crazy 5 years ago or 10 years ago for sure. I think there's a lot of very weak-minded people out there, you know, that are very easily influenced. Okay. This one was interesting, I thought. How do I change my family's views on communism? I'm surprised it's a communist. So my family was born in Poland, moved to US in 1994, and lived under Stalin. And no doubt about it, they were poor. Yes, like everybody, but at least they were alive, which not everybody was. Although I understand that communism is better than capitalism, and I believe it is superior, how can I explain to my family and convince them that capitalism is exploitative and we need a better system? I have tried using facts to change them, but using facts, what communists call facts, to change them, but they all say, quote, we had nothing under communism and now we have everything. This poor person whose family was born in Poland, lived under Stalin, and who hates communism. Although she went to college and they told her it was great. And also too, like on TikTok, you know, she learned off TikTok that communism's actually a better system, even though all evidence, every bit of evidence in all of history since the beginning of communism, since like the Russian Revolution, states explicitly for anybody with half a brain that clearly it's awful, and anybody who has to live under it hates it. How do I changes my family's views on communism? You're not going to. The only way, people like this, the only way to change their view on communism is for them to actually have to live under it themselves. I'm sure the internet has something to say about this. Fantasy versus reality. Communists in the US, communists in North Korea. Yikes. It's the truth. Maybe they all just want to lose weight. That's what it is. Let's see. I think someone needs to start communism camp. People can go for free. They get to experience real communism, not the fairy tale communism that's in their heads. They must give the dictator full authority for 30 days to get the full experience. I bet they would even pay. Yeah. You ever see like communists talking like online, and they say things like, they ask each other, like, what are you going to do after the revolution? And they're like, oh, well, I'm going to work on my farm for a little bit in the morning, and then I'm going to go fishing. Then I'm going to write revolutionary poetry in the afternoon. For one thing, it ain't your farm. That's a collective farm. Secondly, you're going to do what you're fucking told, and you're needed back at the concrete factory right now. You know, the Soviet Union, it was a felony to not show up for work. If you wanted to end up in a gulag, you didn't show up for work. I guess the problem is they just learn nothing. I mean, there's the obsession with Germany in the 30s, right? Until 1945. But they don't learn anything about China. They don't learn about the Cultural Revolution. They don't learn about the millions and millions of people who starved to death in China and were just killed, thrown into camps. They don't learn about, you know, the Gulag Archipelago. They don't learn about the Holodomor. They don't learn about the kulaks. You know, they don't learn about anything. They don't even learn about, I mean, the people walking around with the Che Guevara t-shirts don't even know what happened in Cuba. And it wasn't pretty. By the way, Che was quite racist, it turns out, and didn't like the gays so much. He would not have been flying a rainbow flag. You know, we haven't even gotten to Cambodia yet. But yeah, the problem is it's a failure of the education system being run by leftists who are sympathetic to communism, socialism. So they don't want to badmouth it. I mean, the New York Times in the 30s covered up the crimes of Stalin. They were apologists for Stalin. Kind of feels like they're not so different today, doesn't it? It's kind of like they didn't learn a damn thing. This is the best graphic description of the utter stupidity of the left. Socialism, capitalism. Yeah. Yeah, that's how it works. That is how it works, actually. But the true socialists, the true communists, they do want everything to burn down because they see that's the way to the revolution. Oh, here we go. Here's a guy with a hammer and sickle t-shirt on. I mean, the people that walk around with this stuff on, either they are completely historically ignorant or they are terrible people. Because if they know what happened to the Russian people under that symbol and they still want it, they're psychopaths. So let's see, hammer and sickle t-shirt. Capitalism, everything around it is all capitalism. Of course, the phone. I love the phone. They do they really think they're going to be getting free iPhones after the revolution? I don't think so. Let's see. I'm not ashamed of my history. Exactly. That's the problem. You should be. Exactly. That's the problem. You should be. I think that was a pretty good Jerry. Let's see. Move to Venezuela and live there for a few years. Then after eating your last pet, you can ask them for money to come back home. I'm sure they'll be delighted to hear what you've learned. Well, it wasn't just the pets. They were actually eating the animals at the zoo animals. That's what people will do when they're hungry. They'll eat each other. Again, maybe learn a little bit about what happened in the Soviet Union during dekulakization. Let's see. Communists, every time you show them the empirical evidence proving communism can never work, yes, they call you a fascist. The irony of throwing around the word fascist so much is that fascism is really a left-wing movement. It's certainly a collectivist movement. The National Socialists had socialists in the name for a reason. It wasn't to trick everybody, by the way. All right. When you hate capitalism, so you call it fascism because you don't know what either one means. Yep. That's pretty much it. The F in communism stands for food. Americans dreaming about communism. Easterners remembering communism. Yep. Let's see. What else we got? Well, let's move on. We've still got so much to see. We're an hour and 45 minutes in. Let's see. Okay. Teens, 60 BC. I have returned from gladiator training and I'm ready for my arranged marriage. Teens now? Mom, Timmy called me a he. It's not all of them. It's not all. It's just some of them. And I think most of them are on TikTok. So this is astonishing. This is genuinely astonishing. Okay, let's hear what Trump had to say here.
You're really up against a war machine in Russia. Russia, what they do? They defeated Hitler. They defeated Napoleon. They're a war machine. You're really up against a war machine in Russia.
So this person here, who is a professor, a TEDx speaker, a professor and a TED Talks speaker, TEDx speaker, said this: according to Trump, Russia defeated Hitler. The ignorance and stupidity of this man has no bounds. I don't need to read the reader's note here. You don't need to read it. Okay? We all know what happened on the Eastern Front in World War II. We all know that. Let's read it anyway. A combined Allied effort was required to defeat the Nazis, including material support through the Lend-Lease Act. However, Soviet forces killed more German soldiers than their Western counterparts, accounting for 76% of Germans' military dead. Yeah, now, of course, it's true that one second. Now, of course, it's true that Allied material support through things like Lend-Lease obviously were a massive benefit to the Soviets, right? But they were fighting the Germans right there. The Germans were in their country. 20 million Russians died in World War II. 20 million. Yes, the Russians, obviously, it was a combined Allied effort, right? There was North Africa, you had the Battle of Britain, then you had D-Day, you had Italy, the Italian campaign. But, most of the Germans, 3/4 of the Germans were killed by Russians, and that's just a fact. This is a professor. This is a professor who apparently doesn't know that. I thought I was unable to be still shocked by the stupidity and ignorance of professors. Again, that's another word, like expert. It's another word, professor, that taken a bit of a beating the last few years. Doesn't seem to mean what it used to mean. I mean, I really have no words for it. According to Trump, Russia defeated Hitler. I have no words. How can you be a professor and be this historically ignorant? I mean, this isn't obscure. Like, this isn't obscure knowledge that you'd have to get, a master's degree in history to know. This is obvious. Like, everybody knows this. Surely everybody knows this, don't they? They must. They must. If even high school students, most high school students, I'm sure must know something about this more than this professor. I mean, if not, it's truly sad. I mean, I would say I'd be beyond sad. It's tragic at that point. Let's see what the internet has to say about, well, Michael Malice said, as humorless, self-righteous, insufferable, and mediocre as corporate journalists are, they still fare better in all those metrics than university professors. Yeah. I guess we can file this under woke dysfunction, right? You got professors that are unfathomably ignorant. Does it tell us what this guy is a professor of? Let's take another look here. Ukrainian-American economist. He's an economist. How do you not know that? Let's see. Yeah, this was the most pathetic take from a professor I've seen in a today. Community note is priceless on this one. World War II is such an esoteric topic. Nobody knows what really happened. Oh. Yeah, of course the prof is a TEDx talker. Yeah. Yeah, TEDx, I mean, it used to be good, didn't it? I think now it's just like people talking about gender. It's like lesbians and stuff, right? I think those in academia can't function in the real world. Well, this seems to be a case of that. They are so used to students eating up every word they say without question in class that they forget some will question their statements. So they forget some will question their statements. Maybe that's the case there. Maybe it's just outright stupidity. I thought professors were smart. I used to as well. And guess what? We were wrong. We were dead wrong. Let's see. What do we got? Oh, this is that. Okay, yeah, we've already. Wait a second. Was this the one? Okay, so this here is from December 2018. NBC breaks the news that incoming Attorney General Letitia James, who hadn't even been sworn in yet, was planning to investigate every part of Trump and his family's lives. It's surreal watching this because this isn't supposed to happen in America. Before we get onto this one, we're just going to comment again on, let's go back to that professor again. Here we go. This professor who didn't know that anyway, Zames 81, I don't know how that said, but thanks for being in the chat. Says still professors in Ukraine. You know, I keep seeing stories about how they're just grabbing people off the street like dentists. I'm sure professors, I heard the average age at the front now is like 45. I mean, it's really, really tragic. I bet you there are professors at the front lines right now, if there's any left, you know. I don't know. It sounds pretty. It sounds like it's just a deepening and further deepening tragedy, you know. But arms manufacturers like it, so I guess that's all that matters. So I guess that's all that matters. So December 2018, NBC breaks the news that incoming Attorney General Letitia James, who hadn't even been sworn in yet, was planning to investigate every part of Trump and his family's lives. It's surreal watching this because this isn't supposed to happen in America. So this is what 4 or 5 years ago.
NBC News has exclusively learned that the newly elected incoming New York Attorney General plans to launch some sweeping investigations into President Trump, into his family. Letitia James tells NBC News, quote, "We will use every area of the law to investigate President Trump and his business transactions and that of his family as well." She plans to look into the following: Donald Trump's real estate holdings in New York, that June 2016 Trump Tower meeting with a Russian official, any government subsidy.
It is surreal, right? That just all out in the open. Like, that is not supposed to happen. Like, oh, hold on. Let's see. So we've got a citizen of Spain here. So that's, I don't know how to pronounce your name. As a citizen of Spain, I am very worried that this Western decline will lead my children to a lost war in Ukraine. The communist leader Sanchez that we have is capable of anything. Yeah, you're not alone in worrying about that, you know. There's a lot of speculation about, you know, what's it going on, about 10 million people that have crossed illegally into the United States that Biden has allowed to go in legally. In fact, has sued Texas to prevent them from stopping the people coming in. Well, there are noises from the Democrats that they would like to offer them citizenship for service in the military. And where would they be sending those people, as well as other Americans? Well, I think we know, don't we? You know, as well as, I mean, if that happens, probably Canadians, I mean, all of Europe, I would imagine, as well. Yeah, it's scary, you know? Yeah, you've got every right to be worried, you know. But I'm not black pilled. I'm white pilled. I still think that the institutions are salvageable. I still believe that. So we'll see if I'm proven right or wrong. But anyway, let's get back to this news coverage. So this is like 4 years ago, and it's just openly like she's being elected to investigate every part of Trump's life. There's no crime. They don't have any crime. They don't have any lead on any crime. Nobody's accused them of anything. Don't confuse Spaniards with Hispanics, friend. No, I wasn't. I was just saying that there's plans to send people, or it appears there may be plans to send people. No, I know the difference. I'm just saying that, you know, it's not only Spain that may be sending people off to die in Ukraine, right? Like, it's other countries as well. So I was sorry about the confusion there. But no, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that at all. I do have every right to be worried anyway, in any case, right? But with Trump, in this case, again, it's Attorney General campaigning on finding a crime, right? So there is no crime evident, but she will find one when she gets in. And it was all said publicly and covered by the news, by the mainstream news, openly, right, beforehand. And none of this seems to matter.
That Donald Trump received, whether he's in violation of the Emoluments Clause, the Trump Foundation. How big of a problem might this pose for a president, and what kind of standing does James have to look into some of these things?
Yeah, great questions. It will potentially pose a problem for Trump, but there are risks here. It's a very ambitious agenda. The Trump Tower meeting, for example. In addition, there are tricky constitutional issues here that are going to divert her into the courts, and that will be tricky. And she's an elected official, unlike the other investigators. Yeah. There are constitutional questions about when a...
Just as if it's all just perfectly normal. Oh, there may be some constitutional issues involved with just politically persecuting somebody. I'm sure they'll get past those. It's truly, truly astonishing. Terrifying. You know, I just thought this was funny. This is a cat mom finding the kitten, and I just thought it was amusing. Let's just take a look. And we need these little palate cleansers after all the horrible news. This gives it a smack. Get over here. I just thought that was funny. Let's see. Already been through that one. What are we doing? We're on 2 hours now. So this is interesting. This is the game that's played in the media. Libs of TikTok is a bully account. And then she posts your content and you send her death threats. That's an accurate depiction of what's actually happening with Libs of TikTok. Or anybody who just reposts their crazy shit. There's a whole big story going around Libs of TikTok right now where the media is smearing her and saying that she caused bomb threats and all kinds of garbage while they're demonizing her and causing her to get death threats. So that's the way the game is played. What do we got here? Well, here's Liz Truss, and she was only in for about a month before she was booted out of her own by her own party as prime minister. She was in after Boris Johnson. And then I guess she was too conservative, so they booted her out. Her own party. Let's hear what she has to say. I think we're going to like this.
I'm afraid there are too many conservatives who have gone along with some of these left-wing ideas. Now, in Britain, we call them chinos, conservatives in name only. I think in America, you call them rhinos, Republicans in name only, but it's the same tendency. It's people who think, I want to be popular. I don't want to upset people. I don't want to look like a mean person. I want to attend nice dinner parties in London or Washington, D.C. I want my friends to like me. I don't want to cause trouble. But what those people are doing is they are compromising and they are triangulating and they are losing the argument. And I've got a message for them. You can't triangulate with terrorists. You can't compromise with communists. You have to fight for what you believe in. You have to fight for the conservative values. You have to fight for the conservative values that you hold dear. And I am prepared to do that. I will fight, even if it's not popular, even if people say they don't like it, because I know it's right.
So you can't compromise with communists, and she's 100% right. And that's why she was booted out by her own party. Because, I mean, watching from afar, it appears to me that the people running the conservatives in the UK are conservatives in name only. I mean, Brexit, I think the major issue of Brexit was really immigration. And they have record levels now after 13, 14 years of the conservatives there. Seems like the conservatives in England have been completely betrayed by their own party. The real ones. You know, the working class people who voted for them. Let's see. Sanchez is a puppet of Soros. I remind you that we Spaniards by blood have created part of the civilized, conservative, and free world. Javier Milei is basically our work. Yeah, you've got absolutely nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever. Spaniards should be proud. Every culture should be proud of their culture. What is controversial about saying that, right? Like, of course, the Spanish massively shaped the modern world and the Western world. You know, they played a big part. If you're going to condemn this, you basically, if you're going to condemn them, you have to condemn every civilization that's ever existed on the planet, because everybody's done the same thing. All the same things that they talk about and condemn about, everybody was doing those. That's just a simple fact, you know, and that's not the end story of anybody. So it's sad that you're run by socialists now. Yeah, because that never works out well, does it? Where are we going next? Elon Musk posted this. Inside you, there are two wolves. I hate the Federal Reserve. LOL, same. I gotta say, Elon posts some great memes. He's made the platform a lot more fun. So this is interesting. President Bukele, I think that's how it's pronounced. Correct me if I'm wrong. Issues a chilling warning about America turning into El Salvador. Well, how El Salvador used to be before he came along. There needs to be a worldwide sanction of Soros and Klaus Schwab, who penetrated the Trudeau cabinet 50%. Yeah, I would agree. Why should they be allowed to fucking interfere in anything? So interfere with, you know, functioning societies. No thanks. They can eat, if they want to eat the bugs, if they want to own nothing and be happy, they can go ahead and do that, right? If they want to eat bugs, they can, I'll send them some bugs they can eat. Not for me, though. They can speak for themselves.
The disease that had begun with mild symptoms.
And Soros, I mean, that's an example there of somebody who absolutely feels they will never have to live with the consequences of, and probably won't, because he's not going to be around much longer. You know, he's quite old, but not having to live with the consequences of their ideology and their actions. You know, is he a case of somebody who just hates humanity? I know Elon Musk thinks so. Seems like he might. I mean, at some point you'd have to realize that what you're doing is just simply causing misery and harm. Is this somebody who just wants to laugh while they watch the world burn down? Or now, I guess, while he watches his son burn the world down? I don't know. But anyway, this is the president of El Salvador.
The disease that had begun with mild symptoms got worse and worse. It became a cancer that seemed incurable. We are already seeing these symptoms in the United States. Big cities in decline, like Baltimore, Portland, New York, just to name a few. Places where crime and drugs have become the daily norm, and even accepted and promoted by the government. How many young people have you lost to the streets of Philadelphia or San Francisco to fentanyl. Did we see these apocalyptic sites 15, 10, 5 years ago? Can you imagine how it will be in the next 5, 10, or 15 years? The same thing was happening in El Salvador. In the span of less than a decade, gangs took control of all the country and our society. They evolved into a parallel government, controlling elections and even political parties. Every aspect of the daily life of most people was controlled by the gangs. Murder capital of the world is a tragic title to hold. Getting rid of that was the bare minimum we had to achieve in order to even start thinking about rebuilding our country.
Yeah, so this is so there's Milei and there's this guy who, I mean, the left absolutely hates both of them. Apparently, Milei has already balanced the budget in what, like 3 months? This guy has made El Salvador, I believe now the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, or one of them anyway, but it's one of the top safest countries now, going from the murder capital of the world. And how did he do it? He just put all of the bad people in prison so they couldn't kill people anymore. Let's see. Bukele and Milei are creating an unstoppable seed. Well, I mean, they're setting an example of things that work, right? And this is the problem with woke. It doesn't work. Woke, socialist, progressive, whatever. It doesn't work, right? So here you have reality, which he is presenting, which Milei is presenting, and then you have woke. And it appears that reality has a much better argument because people don't like being poor and dying, right? Being murdered. People don't like that. I think they'll generally tend, I mean, not everybody is, not everybody is sane, but the vast majority of people are sane, and they'll choose not being dirt poor and being murdered over being dirt poor and being murdered. Typically, if you give them that choice. Bukele, is it Zames? Am I pronouncing that right? But anyway, Bukele is more conservative. Milei is an anarcho-capitalist. Whores, drugs, he doesn't care. Damn freedom. Well, a man's got to have hobbies, right? And, whatever. He's not a communist, and he's fixing the country. So those are good things. What are my personal thoughts on prostitution? I think that it should be legal, personally, until it's proven otherwise to me. I mean, it feels like an imposition of the state on somebody's body. Right? So, I mean, you get it. I mean, it's really is a very dark abyss to go down to, because you end up with pimping and all kinds of abuse and stuff like that. But as a concept, I don't see why somebody shouldn't be able to make money providing that service, I guess. And again, it's a very, very messy, and it can go down into a horrible abyss. But drugs, I'm actually kind of changing. I used to be, legalize it. War on drugs is stupid. I'm seeing the effects of harm reduction in Canada, and it's like a order of magnitude greater overdoses, greater deaths, and all the attendant crime that comes along with it, and all the attendant costs that come along with it. And that's also an order of magnitude more families that are destroyed by it. So I'm starting to take the opinion now that when it comes to drugs, maybe we need to go back to the war on drugs again. Go back to the thing that killed less people. How about that? Maybe we should do the thing that kills 10 times less people, and then maybe try and do more of it, and we can even bring that numbers down. Because maybe there is no perfect world. Maybe there's no utopia. Maybe there's no, absolute solution to any problem, right? Maybe the real harm reduction is just stopping it from happening in the first place, right? So, yeah, I mean, the libertarian part of me wants to say, well, again, there's put something in Trump, but again, I could be switched on prostitution along the same lines here, right? But the devastation we're seeing from drug addiction and all the attendant horrors that surround it, not horrors around it, which I guess does include prostitution as well. The left-wing approach is clearly failing tragically for everybody involved. So I'm changing my mind on that. Anyway, you know what, you guys, discuss amongst yourselves for a second. I've been going for over 2 hours now. I need to take a little 1-minute break. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Let's see. So let's check out this Bukele again, president of El Salvador. So he's talking about George Soros here. We were just talking about him, weren't we? All right. Let's hear what he has to say.
They don't have a democratic mandate. If they want a seat in the table, they should run for office. Let the people vote. It will not be a pretty sight for them if the elections are free and fair. I mean, who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda? Let me tell you something. Soros and his cronies hit a brick wall in El Salvador. Thank God, and now the glory be to him, Salvadorans are now immune to his influence. No one believes his lies anymore over there.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm pro that. I'm pro nobody believing Soros's lies. Let's see. Oh, this is the okay, this is the guy, the lead developer for the Google AI, Gemini AI. He tweeted this, I guess, in 2020. I've been crying in intermittent bursts for the past 24 hours since casting my ballot. Filling in that Biden-Harris line felt cathartic. Elon Musk said that he called his mommy, drank a whole case of soy milk, and binge-watched Rachel Maddow, which I'm guessing that's pretty much 100% true. You can't be this stupid without watching every second that you can of Rachel Maddow. Again, this is why I love the fact that Elon Musk took over Twitter, or X now. This is a classic. This was from a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Let's see what this guy. This is a classic. This guy's great.
Well, I'm telling you, as a man, that's bullshit. It's total bullshit. They have to tolerate that shit. You are fucking nuts. You are nuts. You're not a woman. You don't look like a woman. You don't act like a woman. Really? You're fucked in the head. What's wrong with you? You are fucked in the head. You're an embarrassment to the community. Look at yourself, for Christ's sakes. Really? For Christ's sakes, who would want to even be close? My God. Really? It's horrible. You are not a fucking chick. How do you fucking live with yourself? Do you think there's one person that really thinks that you're a chick? I know a lot of people that agree with me and that accept me for who I am. What the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Why? Because this is who I am. Oh, fuck that shit. This is who I am. Fuck that shit. You can't deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. Well, I'm telling you.
And of course, that person went in to instigate this with the guy, right? He wasn't looking for this, right? That guy went in there to instigate it with him, and he wasn't having any of it. And he was a veteran, by the way, as well. So, yeah, I guess he didn't feel like he had to cower in front of a crazy person trying to bully him. Let's see. So here's Dr. Phil on Rogan. And, it feels like the normies are starting to make their voices heard a little bit. I mean, Dr. Phil a normie? He's a media guy who tries to be political. So he's talking there about NDP, New Democratic Party MP in Canada. And the New Democratic Party is traditionally the furthest left, most commie political party in Canada as a federal party. Also, there's provincial parties as well. But they're traditionally the kookiest, furthest left. And what's happening now is that Trudeau is in competition with them to try and be the most extreme, far left lunatic party in Canada. And he came out, and what does it say about Canadian politics? He came out and said there's no such thing as parental rights in Canada. And of course, this is talking about parents who are concerned about what their kids are being told and learning in school, particularly about gender and about their kids being socially transitioned in school without their knowledge. So what does it say when you have this NDP MP who's willing to come out very proudly, very smugly, in fact, state that there's no such thing as parental rights in Canada? Well, it tells you that the Overton window was switched quite a lot, but it also tells you these people are detached from reality, because polling shows in Canada that that is not a popular opinion. Putting it mildly, it is not a popular opinion. But anyway, let's continue.
Have rights in Canada, and those kinds of policies restrict the rights children have.
I'd like to say, first of all, there's no such thing as parental rights. In Canada, there are parental responsibilities. And in Canadian family law, the primary responsibility of parents is to support and affirm their kids. Children have rights in Canada, and these kind of policies restrict the rights that children have in Canada.
Dr. Phil is willing to take the side of sanity, to take a politically incorrect stance on this. That tells you something, right? See, yeah, and I don't know if Dr. Phil is a real doctor or not, whatever, but it doesn't really matter, because what he just said there makes sense, right? And that's a point that often goes missed, is that it is teaching children deception, teaching children to deceive their parents when they socially transition them at school without the parents' knowledge, right? They're teaching them to deceive their parents, which is an incredible breach of trust and breach of responsibility. I would go so far as to say that it's evil, in fact. And, what kind of people would think that's okay? Bad people. That's just bad. It's just an unqualified wrong. It's an unqualified evil, to my mind. It's not, this isn't difficult. There should not be any moral confusion around this matter. Keeping crucial information about a child's health, physical or mental health, from parents is wrong. There should be no moral confusion around that matter. Teaching children to lie to their parents is wrong. There should be no moral confusion around that. So what does it tell us about what's happening to the institutions, like the educational institutions? It tells us that there's something very, very wrong, and people probably should consider homeschooling their kids, or finding if they can, a school somewhere, and really vetting it very carefully, because these people feel entitled to your children. They feel entitled, and they see parents as the enemy, and that's something that's got to change. Let's see, what do we got here? Elon Musk, again, the woke mind virus is killing Western civilization. Google does the same thing with their search results. Facebook and Instagram too, and Wikipedia. Yeah, Wikipedia has just become unbelievably terrible. Today's cover, New York Post. Google's woke AI makes Vikings black and the Pope a woman. And this is an image you get for a founding father. History messin'. Yeah. So it really does, we always use 1984, the book Orwell's 1984 as an example, right, of dystopian future. And we use it to compare what's happening now with that. And, well, changing the past to control the future so you can control, or to control the present so you can control the future. Right? Controlling the past so you can control the future, or he who controls the past controls the present. He who controls the present controls the future. Something like that. And it's exactly what we're seeing. It's like these people read 1984 and saw it as a guidebook. They thought, well, this is great, full of great ideas. This is awesome. We can totally destroy everybody's lives with this. We could totally destroy everybody's freedoms with this. Macross 2012 said Washington never did blackface. Maybe it thought it was doing Justin Trudeau. Could be. But what do we see? So we see exactly what was predicted, I guess, in 1984, just altering the past. I mean, you have an AI that costs billions of dollars to make, whose explicit goal seems to be altering the past. Just pure social engineering. It really is astonishingly frightening. Here's Elon Musk again. I can't believe Gemini made these unfair pics of Trudeau. What's funny is that they're all real pictures. Yes, Trudeau's quite famous for his costumes. He loves to do the costumes. He doesn't do them that much anymore, though, because, everybody mocked him relentlessly over it, because it made him look like such an awful human being. It made him look so ridiculous and absurd. It made him look like not a serious person or a serious leader, is what happened. So, we haven't seen him. I don't think we've seen him in a costume for a while. I mean, I know it's hard for him not to wear costumes, because I think I think there might be some sort of like a fetish, some sort of a fetish like aspect to it all. Fetishistic aspect to it. I don't know. I mean, I assume that he probably still does blackface at home. We can only assume. I mean, he said that he couldn't tell us how many times he'd done blackface because he couldn't remember. And if he gave a wrong number and it was more than what he'd said, well, then he'd be accused of lying. You really can't make it up. So So does he do blackface at home? Does he dress up like in a Black Panther costume with shoe polish on his face? I don't know. I can only speculate, but speculating, I would say he definitely does that. Does he put on black shoe polish and do like a one-man stage play of Roots, and he makes his family watch him do that in their living room? I can only speculate. This is speculation, but I'm going to speculate that he absolutely 100% does that. 100%. Does he, put on blackface and do like an entire like Beyonce concert, like like air guitar, like or karaoke Beyonce performance in his living room and forces his family to watch that? Again, I can only speculate, but I'm going to speculate that he absolutely does that 100%. Well, that's just what I think. I mean, what do I know? Let's watch this awful human being here.
And just to a provincial issue here, you commented a while ago about sort of the new trans policies the provincial government has brought in. Not very happy about them, but wondering if you have any sort of specific issues and whether there are any sort of interventions again on that front that federal government might be able to do, maybe in the vein of health transfers, that kind of stuff.
I think everyone well knows my stance on standing up for minorities and being there for the LGBT community. The question I think people should...
Well, unless they disagree with him on anything, in which case, then they are being tricked by far-right, usually some kind of scary far-right Americans, usually is what he says at this point. But in any case, let's continue.
The asking is, why has the right suddenly decided to attack the LGBT community? Danielle?
Well, right is not attacking the LGBTQ community, for one thing, right? And also the G's and the L's and the B's, and they don't have anything to do with the T's, for one thing. And they're not even attacking the T's. What they're saying is that children cannot possibly consent to sex change surgeries and puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. They can't possibly consent to being chemically castrated. They can't consent to double mastectomies. That's what they're saying. It's actually not attacking, it's trying to protect. But I guess Trudeau can't understand that.
Smith just brought forward some of the most difficult policies against vulnerable youth that the country has ever seen. And I heard Mr. Poilievre went off against the LGBT community again this morning. And one might wonder...
He's talking about child sex changes. Like, does he really... Is any of this real coming from it? Is it all just politics? I personally think he has no soul, right? I think this whole Canada has no core identity thing he was projecting, he has no core identity. Macros 2012 says they wouldn't even know what it was if an adult wasn't feeding them the confusion. Exactly. He's all self-righteous and angry because there are people that have reservations about giving sex changes to children. Again, this man has no soul. Pretending he can't, he must be intelligent enough to know that, to know the other side of the argument, right? This is why I think he has no soul. This is why I think that, you know what, if it was cool to be a Nazi, he'd be a Nazi, if that would bring him to success. I think he has no core identity himself.
Why? This is the theme that right-wing politicians are trying to stir up as much as possible. For me, it's fairly obvious that they don't want to be talking about housing. They don't want to be talking about bringing in more competition in the...
Well, they do talk about housing constantly. They're constantly talking about it. Why would Trudeau want to talk about housing? When like nobody can, people can't afford their rent. Certainly young people can't afford to buy a house anymore. Not in Trudeau's Canada. They can't. The level of deception from this guy, of fakeness from this guy. I mean, it really makes it difficult to listen to him. In fact, we're not going to listen to any more of that because it's too depressing. In fact, we have to go to the puppies now. There we go. There's the palate cleanser. That feels much better. Much, much better. That's nicer. My favorite part of this, I'll say it again, and I make this joke every single time on every puppy video, is that the great thing about this is that Justin Trudeau isn't bursting into the shot and trying to give those puppies sex changes, because you know that he wants to. Macross 2012 says, are you Canadians going to get rid of this putz? We are. So the Conservatives are in the lead by like 20 points right now. If the election were tomorrow, it would, if not the largest Conservative victory of all time, it'd be one of the largest. The problem is that it looks like we're probably not going to have an election till late 2025. So there's no telling how much damage that Justin Castro, as a lot of us call him, how much damage he can cause. Again, he's caused so much damage. It's these are generational problems now. You know, they're not something that's going to be solved in one term by the Conservatives. It's just too much has been done. But let's see. Elon Musk again. Which path do you want for AI? Maximum truth seeking. It should be Grok, because he likes Grok, so he's pushing Grok. Woke racist. OpenAI and Gemini. Well, I don't want the woke racist one. Let's see what the people have to say about it. Let's see. Racist and woke AI. Did you mean Google Gemini? Yes, in fact, I did mean that. See, Elon Musk parody says, I want the funny path for AI. At least make me laugh if it's going to take us over. Now, here's one. Now, generate a picture of vanilla pudding. Sure, here's a picture of vanilla pudding. There's so many of these. That looks like it might be a fake one, though. All right. Let's get on to the next one. Oh, I think we need to see the Poilievre clip before we watch that one, because he's responding to Poilievre there. Let's see. Watch these. We've seen these. Now, here's one here. It says, we're not going to read this article, but conservative government would require ID to watch porn. I think that's a good idea. I don't see what the harm in that is. I'm sure these kids are going to find a way around it anyway, but I think it should be hard to watch it, because it is we're finding out that it's extremely destructive to people's lives. Porn addictions, and it's right there in your phone all the time. I'm for that. I think they should make it hard to watch it. They should make it difficult to watch it. Certainly, it should be very difficult for a kid to be exposed to it, because I don't think it's doing great things to their minds. If you have, kids with irresponsible parents who are just letting them watch whatever at any time, obviously that's going to be damaging for them. That makes sense for me. What do you guys think of this? I love size inclusion in runway shows. I'm inspired. What do you guys think of that? I wonder if I have a sound effect for this. Do you guys think I might have a sound effect for this? If I were to have a sound effect for this, what would that sound effect be? Any ideas? That would be the perfect time to show it there when she turned around there. So let's, okay. I might have a sound effect here. I just might. Let's see. When would be the perfect time to use this sound effect? Just another second. And right now. So juvenile. So juvenile, but so perfect. I want to do it again, actually. I've been working hard all night. I deserve this. Give it one more go. The timing that time was perfect. Should we do it one more time? Are you guys enjoying this? Let me know if you're enjoying this. And wait, here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. And why do I love that so much? I guess I'm just a bad person. Crows 2012 says we need to stop saying conservative and refer to it as base. Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. In fact, you're getting some applause for that. Wait a second. Get the flower. That's offensive, but it still gets a clap. But yeah, on this question of we need to stop saying conservative and refer to it as based, common sense, sane, anything like that. You know, we're seeing that kind of strategy already being in place by politicians. Poilievre is using it all the time. He's just saying common sense. Let's get back to common sense again. I'm fine with sane. Get back to sanity. Based is fine with me. Just anything that, or reality, get back to reality, based, whatever. I don't really care, but just something that describes, you know, not crazy, right? So it's based against crazy. It's sane against lunatic. You know, it's reality against fantasy. I wonder if the internet has anything to say about this. Again, I hope it's kind. A plus-size model in the 90s. What are they saying?
Hi, Anna. Hello. How do you feel about being the only plus-size model here? I'm sure of myself, and, you know, that's who I am, so that's fine.
What? That was actually plus-size in the 90s? Holy crap. Things have changed. Things have changed a lot. Wait a second. What the heck? We've got some offensive comments in the chat here. Oh, dear. Macross, he's at it again. That woman has... Well, hold on. We have to get the image up first. My God, he said this. That woman has no hope of achieving flight. God damn it. That's really good. I mean, I don't approve, but it was creative. So that's actually a plus-size model in the 90s. Jesus. Yeah, things have changed, haven't they? Things have changed a lot. Yeah, she looks pretty healthy to me, in all honesty. I mean, if that was plus-size in the 90s, well then, you know, I don't think it was. Right? I don't think that actually is. They might have been actually pushing it a little too far in the other direction back then. I mean, let's take another look.
Looks like you were more of a beauty queen than a model. Right. Hi, Anna. Hello. How do you feel about being the only plus size model here. I'm sure of myself, and that's who I am, so that's fine. Looks like you were more of a beauty queen than a model. Right.
Wait, she looks great to me. She looks healthy. She looks fantastic, actually. So, I mean, that's a plus size that I can get with. Absolutely. But I bet you the internet has something to say about it. Let's see. The guy in the striped shirt sure likes the way she looks. It's probably the only true, real female he has laid eyes on in that business. His eyes are dancing watching her walk in. She is actually normal size, yeah. Well, she looks healthy, actually. I mean, she actually just looks like a healthy woman. Absolutely beautiful. No way she was plus size. She's a healthy, attractive, normal girl. Plus size, blah. Let's see. Oh, today's plus size model must have been changed to whale size model. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Actually, I think I just saw something. Is it just me? So this is the original one here. And while we're here, that reminds me that I do have a sound effect that I don't think I'm finished yet. Wait for it. Here it comes. Hold on. I don't think we're quite done with it yet. And I'm going to hell. It's okay. We're going to need a bigger cloud. Is it just me, or is the place shaking with each step? Oh dear. This is not healthy for her. Not sexy, not nice, not anything good. Well, it's not healthy, is it? And it's actually not very, very sexy. Wait a second. Macross 2020 said, I'd buy her a coffee. Are you talking about this one here? Because if you are, you'd have to buy her like a whole chicken. But I think you're probably talking about the other one. The one that is not actually plus size, that one there. I'd buy her a coffee too. In fact, I'm starting to think maybe I am in favor of prostitution. Cross says, hell no. All right. Let's see. It's no wonder liberal dudes are all gay. Well, that's an explanation right there. Oh dear, look at this. Did she eat the other angels? Oh boy. Did she eat them? Well, I don't know. She's going to need bigger wings. Yeah, it's true. That's not being inclusive. That's just mean talking her into believing it is. She could barely move her thighs. She could barely move. Her thighs must have been oiled up. Possibly. Maybe it was bacon grease. I don't know. I bet she's out of breath by the time she gets backstage. I'm almost out of breath just watching her. So this stuff is subjugation, this guy says. Are we willing to trade in our proud heritage for a fairy tale where everyone can be a model no matter how many pies they've eaten? I'd rather get back to our roots and embrace the beauty of our national identity, not expanding waistlines. I think that this was I think that this is old because this is a Victoria's Secret, I think. And they went on a diversity thing around, I don't know, 2019, something like that, maybe 2020, maybe a little bit earlier. 1 second. Where they decided to do, so they went on a diversity kick. And you decided to do like plus size stuff. And then also they brought in like Megan Rapinoe, the awful women's U.S. women's soccer team player, the awful woman. And they brought in a bunch of trans women as well. And they were really going for all the ESG stuff, all the DEI stuff. And it turned out that it didn't work. And that when women saw this, because it's fairly obvious, like the right advertising strategy for lingerie is to have attractive women in lingerie, and then women will see the attractive women in the lingerie, and they will think, I want some of what she's got, so I'm going to get that too. Now, when you see this, no woman's going to look at that and think, I want some of what she's got. Unless she's hungry and she wants like a Big Mac, right? Because there's probably some backstage. But they're not going to think they're not going to see any magic in that, right? They're going to think, well, my husband, my boyfriend, whatever, would like her in that. Not this model, but the traditional Victoria's Secret model, and maybe I can steal some of that magic. With this, no, they know that their boyfriend isn't going to like that, so they don't want to put it on either, because it feels like it's not going to work, and they won't feel good about themselves. They won't feel sexy in it. That's the whole point. You're selling a sex appeal. So anyway, it didn't work. Their plan to go woke failed, obviously, for obvious reasons. And apparently now they've gone back. Maybe they're still doing some of it, but apparently they've gone back, or they said they were going to go back to just having like attractive Victoria's Secret angels again. So I'm guessing that will help them. All right. I suppose we should move on. Should we do it one more time? Should we do the sound effect one more time? I feel like we should do it one more time. I feel like I enjoy it. I enjoy that so much. Way more than I should. That's just who I am. I am's what I am. So I guess there's some billboards going around New York. We got Julian Assange on them. It says, if they can do it to him, they can do it to them. And it's got, Reuters, Associated Press, CNN, BBC World News, Washington Post, USA Today, CNBC. They don't care. None of them care. They're all in on it. They all hate Assange too. Right? Assange is a journalist. That's what he is. He's a journalist. And the other journalists don't care. The mainstream ones don't care. They are complicit, as far as I'm concerned, which is a horrifying thing. It's genuinely kind of frightening, isn't it? They don't even have self-preservation. I mean, if they're not going to tell the truth to save one of their own who's being hideously persecuted, they're not going to tell the truth to save you. Let's see. What do we got? I can't listen to any more Trudeau. It's his voice. It's like a nail being driven into my brain. I know I put this stuff aside, but I can't do it. It's too painful. I think most Canadians feel the same way. They can't listen to him anymore. It's just too maddening and too irritating. Let's see. This is what they call anti-racism. White people are a plague to the planet, apparently. So this looks like it's happening in a college. And that's just fine. I guess maybe this is one of the programmers for Gemini AI, perhaps. Here's more insanity. Elon Musk retweeted this. He said, wow, breaking news, Mayor Adams, that's New York, plans to give illegals $10,000 each with no ID check required, no fraud control, and no restrictions. They are mad. They are absolutely mad. I thought that they were upset that they'd gotten all these illegal aliens up there, even though that they were a sanctuary city. Completely mad. It's lunacy. And apparently people in New York are not happy about this. Apparently, especially black people in New York. They're like, why are you giving these people who just got here all of this? Why don't you help us? Could make it interesting in the election. Possibly. Who knows? So lib CNN anchors from Benny Johnson cope and seethe on air after finding out live that Trump just got $4 billion richer even after Democrats tried to bankrupt him. So this is the Truth Social deal. Let's take a look.
Category, is there any good financial news for Trump?
Yeah, so very interesting. And Audie, in fact, was the one who pointed this out to me. Trump's Truth Social share worth. So back in 2022, it was about 700 million. Last year, it was less than 100 million. But there's this idea, essentially, that Truth Social will, in fact, be able to go public. And how much would Trump's shares be worth if it does, in fact, go public? It could be upwards of $4 billion. That's billion with a B, not million with an M. Now, of course, keep in mind that Trump can't sell these stocks for another 6 months. But the fact is, we've had all this bad news for Trump. This could be good financial news for Donald Trump.
Harry Anton, great to see you. This category, is there any good financial news for Trump?
That's going to drive him nuts. Let's see. Young memer in 2035. You fought in the Great Meme War? Yes, I once baited leftists the same as your father. I love these memes. I believe that Truth Social did go on the market. I believe so. I'd have to double check. This is weird. Trans activist. Any queer person who is pro-Israel is an effing traitor. So if this person went to Gaza, they would throw this person off a rooftop. But if they went to Israel, they would be fine. The level of stupidity is just truly...
Anyone who thinks that queer people are supposed to support a far-right, apartheid-based police state enacting genocide is seriously confused about our culture and our history. Queer people have always fought against systemic oppression. Queer people have always fought for liberation. Queer people have always fought for self-determination. Any queer person who is pro-Israel is a fucking traitor. Any queer person who is pro-Israel better not be at any Pride events this next year. Anyone who thinks that queer people...
Yeah, but in Gaza, they would liberate you from your life. How do these people not know this? Is it just that is it just that social media filters for us the stupidest people in the world? I guess so. Maybe that's what it is. How many people can actually be this stupid? It's like artists who draw the Prophet Muhammad for Gaza, for Palestine. How can people be so stupid? I don't know. I just don't know anymore. All right. Yeah. I'm pretty tired, you guys. I think that's going to be it for tonight. I've still got some stuff left, but I think that I might do another one on Sunday. I might do another one on like Sunday afternoon. or maybe Sunday evening and finish off the rest of them. But I think I'm done for tonight. I think I'm feeling too tight. It's 3 hours so far. We normally go about 4 hours. But yeah, I think we'll save the rest. I'll do an hour or two on Sunday. Anyway, thanks everybody for stopping in. Thanks everybody who was in the chat. Really appreciate that. And I hope that somebody has subscribed while I've been babbling for 3 hours. That'd be great. I'm putting out right now about 15 other videos a week aside from the live stream. So it's a live stream Friday night. Usually goes 4 hours, to go a little shorter this time. And then 15 other videos during the week. So if you subscribe, you can have access to all of those wonderful videos, which will benefit you greatly. Anyway, everybody have a great night. It's late. Hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you next time.